Here is something I have seen happen more than once, and every time, it catches leadership completely off guard. A company rolls out AI tools across departments. Productivity goes up. People seem happy. The reports look good. And then, about 6 to 12 months later, something starts to feel off. Collaboration slows down. Decisions take longer. Teams that used to solve problems together are now solving them separately, and nobody really knows what the other side is doing anymore. Nobody planned for this. Nobody wanted it. And the AI tools are working perfectly fine. That is the part that makes this hard to see. My name is Ronald. What you are watching is an AI clone, and yes, that is intentional. AI is part of how I work every day. My company, Data Wonder, builds AI automation and voice agent systems for real businesses, insurance companies, accounting firms, medical clinics, companies with high operational costs and a lot of repetitive work that can be automated. This channel exists because most AI content does not reflect what actually happens inside organizations once these systems are deployed. I am trying to fix that. If you are here for calm, business-focused AI analysis that is grounded in real deployments, not theory, not hype, consider subscribing. This is what we cover. Now, back to the problem. What I just described, teams drifting apart after successful AI rollouts, is not a rare edge case. It is a pattern. And I have seen it often enough that I want to name it clearly, because most companies will not recognize it until the damage is already done. Let me describe how it typically starts. A company decides to adopt AI seriously. Not just one tool, a broader push. Marketing gets an AI content assistant. Finance gets an AI reporting layer. Operations gets an automation stack for their workflows. Customer service gets an AI ticketing and response system. Each department implements something, and each department gets faster. That is real. The productivity gains are real. But here is what happens underneath. Each of those AI systems starts to shape how work gets done inside that department. The workflows, the decisions, the information filters, all of it gets optimized around the tool that department is using. Over time, each team is not just working faster. They are working in a slightly different way, with slightly different assumptions, with slightly different data, and they are not really talking to each other about it. Have you seen this in your own company? Maybe not framed this way, but look at how cross-functional meetings feel now compared to 18 months ago. Are they faster, more aligned, more productive? Or do they feel like translation exercises, where each team has to explain their context before anything can actually get decided? That feeling has a cause, and it is worth taking seriously. The assumption most leadership teams make when they roll out AI is that the tools are neutral, that they are just faster versions of the old tools, a better spreadsheet, a smarter inbox, nothing that would change how people think or collaborate. That assumption is wrong. AI tools do not just accelerate work, they shape it. They filter which information gets surfaced, which options get presented, which patterns get reinforced. When different teams use different AI systems with different data, they are not just working faster, they are developing different mental models of the same business. And that divergence is silent. Nobody announces it. Nobody files a report about it. It just accumulates. But that is still the surface layer. The real problem goes deeper, and I will get to that in a moment. First, let me make this concrete. I worked with an insurance company last year. They had automated a significant portion of their claims intake process. The operations team loved it. Processing speed was up, error rates were down, and the system was performing exactly as designed. But around month 8, something started breaking down in their weekly cross-departmental meetings. The risk team and the operations team kept arriving at different conclusions from what should have been the same underlying data. Conversations that used to resolve in 30 minutes were running 90 minutes and still not landing anywhere. When we looked at it carefully, the problem was not that anyone was wrong. The problem was that the AI system in operations had been subtly filtering claims data in a way that emphasized throughput and resolution speed. The risk team, working with a different layer of the same data unfiltered, was seeing patterns the operations team's tools were deprioritizing. Same company, same data, two different pictures. Neither team knew the other was seeing something different. That is the drift. Not a conflict, not a failure. Just a quiet divergence built slowly, invisibly, by tools that were working exactly as intended. If what I am describing is landing for you, go ahead and hit like. It helps this content reach the people who actually need to see it. Now here is the part most companies miss entirely. When this kind of drift happens, the instinct is to fix it at the meeting level. Better agendas, more alignment sessions, cross-functional workshops, and sometimes those help temporarily, but they do not touch the root. The root is not communication. The root is that AI systems are making interpretive decisions that nobody assigned them to make, and nobody is reviewing those decisions. Every AI system has embedded assumptions about what is important, about what to surface and what to suppress, about how to define a successful outcome. When those systems are built or configured by separate teams without a shared framework, those assumptions diverge, and over time, so do the teams using them. This is where the organizational failure lives, in the fact that when companies roll out AI, they almost never designate someone whose job is to understand how the different systems are shaping decisions across departments. There is usually an IT owner, a vendor relationship, maybe a project manager, but nobody who is asking the hard question, what is this system actually optimizing for, and is that still aligned with what the business needs? That role does not exist in most organizations, and its absence is expensive. Here is the second-order effect, the part that does not show up in the productivity reports. When teams develop different AI-shaped mental models of the same business, strategy gets harder. Not because people are less capable, because they are literally working with different versions of reality. When you bring those teams into a room to make a strategic decision, you are not getting one leadership team. You are getting several semi-independent interpretations of the company, each backed by data, each locally coherent, each quietly incompatible with the others. You cannot align on strategy if you cannot agree on what is true about your own business. And the longer the drift runs unchecked, the harder it is to reverse. Because by the time leadership recognizes the pattern, the AI systems have become load-bearing. Departments are dependent on them. Ripping them out is not an option. Reconfiguring them is expensive and disruptive. And the divergent mental models, those have been reinforced for months. This is the quiet version of an AI failure. No dramatic outage. No public mistake. Just a company that slowly loses its ability to function as one coherent organization. The fix is not complicated, but it requires something most companies do not yet have: intentional governance of how AI systems shape information and someone with the authority to enforce cross-system consistency. That means before you deploy, defining what each system is optimizing for explicitly, in writing, in language that non-technical stakeholders can review. It means establishing shared data standards across departments so that different AI tools are working from the same underlying definitions. And it means building a feedback loop where cross-functional friction gets surfaced early, before it calcifies into structural misalignment. None of this is technically complex. It is organizationally complex, which is exactly why it does not happen by default. The companies I have seen navigate this well are the ones that treated AI deployment as an organizational decision, not just a technology purchase. They asked the hard questions before rollout, they assigned clear ownership, and they built in review points that were not just about performance metrics, but about alignment. The companies that struggled are the ones that moved fast, got the early productivity wins, and assumed the hard work was done. It was not. It was just beginning. If you are building or leading inside a company right now, the question worth asking is not whether your AI tools are working. It is whether your teams are still seeing the same business. Because those are two very different questions, and the gap between them is where the drift lives. If what I described today, the silent divergence, the misaligned data pictures, the strategic friction, sounds like something you are already seeing in your organization, and you want to understand exactly where it is coming from and how to address it, you can book a free call with me. The link is right below this video.